And at last, we've got some Six Nations on our hands. It's been a long time coming. It feels like it's been years, but it's actually just been 2 months since we saw Test rugby. But since the Autumn Series, a couple of things have changed, and we would really like to see exactly how this all pans out. Yes, we've got France versus Wales, and we've got Scotland versus Italy, and we've got England playing Ireland. And the obvious ones that you would choose out of the lot is you would pick Scotland, and you'd pick France, and you'd pick Ireland to actually run away with these ones. And nobody's going to blame you if you think that. And I think it is actually going to go according to the form book, I have to be honest. But the bigger picture is actually a very cool one, because at the moment, Andy Farrell needs to really do a great job of uh, getting a good understanding of who his squad is, see them playing, and then make a sensible decision afterwards. The part that is really going to be great is he needs to kind of figure out what coaching staff he should take to make every single player from the respective nations feel part of the group, but also make sure that he picks a competent collection of coaches to work with for that Lions tour. The interesting part about the Lions tour is there were actually talks a couple of months ago about not having it against Australia based on the horrible form that they've been on recently, but that has improved quite dramatically, and they are on an upward curve. They proved themselves quite a bit on the end of year tour, and they will be going through Super Rugby now. So there will be a lot of good preparation for those Australian players as well. So I think it's going to be an interesting series, a very weird one. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be such a massive domination by the Lions team as people might think. With the four home nations being off to Australia in the middle of the year, the other two teams in the tournament are also going to face some of the toughest opposition that they possibly can at that time of the year. Italy will be going to South Africa, and France will be going to New Zealand at the same time. When you have a look at the rankings as they sit currently in the world, it's very easy to see who are the dominant teams and who are the most likely to actually walk away with a Six Nations title. Ireland still sits at the top. France is just below them in the rankings. If you remove the Southern Hemisphere teams, then comes Scotland, then England, then it's Italy and Wales right at the bottom. But Wales can be a little deceptive, I have to say. They had an absolutely horrible 2024, losing every single game that they played. But there was one thing that stood out to me. Really have a look at the way that they played against South Africa. There's still some creativity and still some interesting thinking that comes from Warren Gatland. The way that he looked at that and the way that he approached the game actually nullified a lot of the power that the South Africans have had over the past couple of years in their scrums, and they stopped them at the rucks and the mauls pretty efficiently, forcing a couple of turnovers and forcing a couple of knock-ons from the South African team, which is highly uncharacteristic for the South Africans. So, yeah, if Warren Gatland can put a few things together, get a couple of these younger players to actually step up, they're going to make some noise when this tournament is said and done. I don't think they're going to come away with any shock wins against the likes of Ireland and France, but they will be pushing the other teams fairly close. The strange thing with that home lineup is if you have a look at the six teams and you have a look at them from top to bottom, Ireland do sit at the top of the pile still on points, but they've been fairly erratic, especially if you have a look at their results. They weren't as dominant as they have been for ages, and they started losing a lot of the structure that they used to have. So I hope that Andy Farrell is able to bring that back, and that we have that same amazingly disciplined, well-drilled machine running onto the field when Ireland takes on England. The form teams definitely out of the six at the moment are France and Scotland. They've been riding high for a couple of months now, and especially after the November tour, they had some really impressive results. There has been a bit of an up and down from Scotland, but you could see a lot of the type of play that they would produce. And with that type of play, it's going to be something that everybody enjoys watching. And I don't think any team is safe when they play against them. When you have a look at England, England are slowly but surely building up. It's been a long road. They've had a tough 2 years under Borthwick, but I do think that it is going to culminate now in them actually putting their hand up again when the Six Nations. I look forward to that. It's just a necessary thing in the balance of world rugby to see a stronger English side. Italy, yeah, that's all I can say. Uh, the problem with Italy is you're going to get them really putting together a wonderful couple of minutes of play. They can probably push it up to about 60 minutes. They're still not an 80-minute team. If they can get it to 80 minutes with all of the flair and all of the creativity that they have, things are going to get interesting. But I'm not so sure that they are there yet. If they can pull it off, it'll be amazing, because then we're going to start seeing a real growth of the game as well in Italy. You also just need to have a look at how Benetton and Zebra constantly improved in the URC as well, to know that they are on an upward trajectory. With Wales, as I mentioned a little earlier, a few things need to fall in place for them to be just in the mix. But these two teams at the bottom are not going to be a real threat to the overall tournament, but they might pull off the upset or two. Coming back to the Lions Tour and the impact this is going to have on the Lions Tour is, I just think Andy Farrell is in a wonderful position. If you get to actually see the players week in and week out playing against tough international opposition and different types of international opposition, you'll be able to really gauge who you should take with you on that tour. There are a couple of people that do really stand out, and I do think it's on different sides of the scale if you just have a look at it objectively. If you really have a look at it, it's not difficult to know that the majority of the squad will be Scottish players and Irish players. That's a given in my opinion. However, there are a couple of players that you can't overlook from England, and there are even some that you really need to give credit to in the Wales team. On the England side, I feel there are a few players that really do stand out in my opinion, and it sits in the forwards back. Ben Earl and Tom Curry are two of the standout flankers in world rugby, and I love the way that they approach the game. They are relentless workers in terms of what they do on the field, and they would really work well with any Lions team and definitely not let them down. I'm going to butcher his name, but I do hope I see Asher Fortier a lot more in this Six Nations tournament. He's only got one cap for England, but he's an absolute beast of a prop. I think if he gets enough game time during this Six Nations, he should definitely be going on tour with the Lions. I do believe he's a talent for the future, and he's probably going to get up to about the 100, 120 mark if he stays healthy for England. He is definitely a super impressive prop in my opinion. And it's not just with his scrummaging, he's a real threat in the loose as well. And that is where it really starts getting interesting. We saw a lot of that from the likes of South Africans, Oxen Chair over the last year or two. And there is a interesting dynamic that is changing in how props approach the game. And I love that. When you see a prop on a bullocking run, or you actually see him putting in the tackles, it's something of beauty. On the Wales side, there are three names just to mention. David Jenkins, you have to have him in the mix as one of the locks. Dewey Lake needs to be one of the hookers, in my opinion. And Jack Morgan, you have to take along as one of the loose forwards to cover there as well. Overall, though, I'm just looking forward to a weekend of great rugby. I want to see who can actually put their hand up in the whole process, not just in terms of getting spots in the Lions team, though that would be an interesting battle throughout the tournament, but actually who really comes through and delivers us a bit of a shocker. As things stand, as this lineup looks in terms of the games, not so sure it's going to happen this weekend. Still early, people are a bit rusty, but that exact same reason might be the reason why it actually just does happen. So let's wait and see.